Should Christian parents allow their children to read Harry Potter? Before I get into this, I would like to preface it by saying that everyone is entitled to their own opinion on things like this. Every parent knows their own children best and have the right to raise them as they see fit. If you disagree with anything in this video, please share your views in the comments with respect and charity. Now to the video. When Harry Potter was first released in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was bombarded by an angry mob of Christians who believed it was a depiction of Satanism with its use of magic and witchcraft. Now, I don't claim to know anything very much about Satanism, but I can tell you that the magic in Harry Potter is absolutely not satanic. J.K. Rowling made up the names of the spells in her stories based on Latin words. It had nothing to do with satanic witchcraft and the like. So then, is Harry Potter therefore safe? A wholesome children's story to be enjoyed by Christian families? Well, I wouldn't go that far. It is at least partly true that Harry Potter does promote Christian love in the sense that it portrays the hero Harry Potter sacrificing his own life to save his friends and all the innocent people who would otherwise become victim to the villain Lord Voldemort. This is reminiscent of what Christ said, "No greater love hath man than this, that he should lay down his life for his friends." So Harry Potter is almost like a saint story. Again, no, I still would not go that far. There are a couple of things which make Harry Potter less than a saint story. It's perhaps still not harmful for children to read, but it should not be compared with the spiritual value of reading the scriptures, especially the Gospels, and the lives of the saints. Firstly, Harry Potter's character is quite morally ambiguous. This is not necessarily harmful itself, but please hear me out. He is often depicted, especially as the books go on, as angry, short-tempered, resentful, bitter, and even envious. Now, we can all experience these feelings, and it is good to have a character we can relate to. But then he is also depicted as demonstrating heroic self-sacrificial acts of love, such as when he sacrificed himself, as was mentioned just before. My point here is this. I once heard a priest in a spiritual talk say that if we cannot be faithful in the small things, how can we be faithful in the more difficult things? Harry Potter is portrayed as unable to control his emotional reactions, and yet he's willing to die to save his friends. This is not an accurate portrayal of the moral life. We are able to perform heroic acts of self-sacrificial love when we have previously been doing difficult but small acts of kindness and self-mastery for some time. God calls us to say yes to him every day. When a car cuts out in front of us in traffic and we are tempted to shout at them, when we stomp our toe and we are tempted to say a bad word in the presence of a little child, when we hear gossip and slander going on in the workplace and are tempted to join in at someone else's expense. And every time we say yes to God and no to sin in these small acts, our will becomes stronger. This is the kind of thing which prepares one's heart for martyrdom. But this is not what we see in Harry Potter. If we wish to have a Harry Potter story which sends more edifying messages about the spiritual life, the story would have to change to depict Harry's struggles with various temptation, such as the temptation to lose his anger, and yet finding how to strengthen his own will to say yes to what's right and no to temptation. There is one other point I would like to make about the imperfections of the messages of Harry Potter. It is perhaps a stronger point. I'm assuming that my viewers will not have to worry about spoilers in Harry Potter by this stage. In the 6th book, we all know, hopefully by now you all know, that Snape kills Dumbledore. In book 7, we discover that this was prearranged between Dumbledore and Snape. Dumbledore was already going to die anyway, and this plan would mean that the Death Eaters would fully trust Snape, which would give him more authority within their ranks. This ultimately led to him being able to be in charge of Hogwarts during this time of war, so that he was able to ensure the safety of many children. I'm sure that almost everyone who read this said something to this effect. I see now. That explains everything. Well, that excuses Snape's actions completely. So in this case, there was nothing wrong with Snape killing Dumbledore. This very sentiment goes directly against Catholic moral teachings. The Catholic Church teaches that it is only ever okay to kill in a case of self-defense when there are no other possible options available. This was not an instance of self-defense. But we say he was going to die anyway. Okay, so that's the argument people use in favour of euthanasia, which is against Catholic moral teachings. Are you saying that it's okay to kill someone who is, quote, going to die anyway? This is what I'm saying. The Harry Potter books implicitly endorse the idea that it is okay in some circumstances to commit murder. Of course, we don't judge people. We know, just as the Church knows, just as God knows, that there is a plethora of factors which can influence people's actions and potentially mitigate their guilt. What I'm saying is that Snape might not have gone to hell for this act because he was under a great deal of pressure, and he had been asked to do this by Dumbledore, and he may have been overwhelmed by what was at stake in this situation. These factors could well have mitigated his guilt in this sinful act, but it is still a sin, and it is still murder. So then what can we take from all this? Can Christian parents allow their children to read it? Well, yes they can, as long as these problematic messages are discussed openly, so that their thinking may not be led astray. Always be open with your children in discussion. I am of the firm opinion that rather than sheltering children, parents and family members should foster strong, healthy relationships with their children where they can speak openly and discuss issues. We, adults of the Christian community, need to be patient and to listen openly to our children so that together we can prepare them as best we can for the kingdom of heaven.